Flawedcast, Extra Shots, Superman 2025. We only come to know the true power of evil when we work to suppress it in ourselves. Superman.
Flawedcast, get in the arena.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. All of our esteemed Flawedcast listeners want to welcome and thank everybody to a brand new episode of Flawedcast, where I'm going to get into some extra shots, my thoughts on the newest Superman movie, Superman 2025, or James Gunn's Superman. It's all coming up here in a moment, but I'm going to get the shake and howdy out of the way before I do that. Make sure that you share this episode. We are anywhere you listen to podcasts. Just search Flawedcast, CLE. Apple, Spotify, Breaker, Anchor.fm. We're also on the video platform Rumble. Just search Flawed Inc. You can find us on the Project Mockingbird social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Getter, Gab, Parler, and we are now on Threads. That is all searchable by Flawed Inc. You can look in the description of this episode and you'll find a link to get a copy of my book, Smith's Heart of Man Repair Manual. And our email is flawedinccle@gmail.com. Questions, comments, or concerns, send them there. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the new Superman movie. But let's get into this review. Mrs. Smith and I just saw it last night, and I wanted to give you my thoughts, give you my reviews, and my recommendations. So just a brief history of my connectivity with Superman. I grew up adoring Christopher Reeve, and Superman 1, Superman 2 were on regular rotation of VHS tapes I watched at my house. And I just so affiliated with the idea of a character who is just pure. And I'm going to get into a little bit of the history, but I just so identified with the idea of truth, justice, and the American way. And to me, Christopher Reeve really embodied that. And it was just something as a young person that really just connected with me. And one of the things about Superman that I really love is there's several things, but the connectivity to Cleveland. He was created in the 1930s by two young Jewish men who lived in Cleveland, Jerry Segal and Joe Shuster. And they brought together their love of heroics and their knowledge of the scriptures, being young Hebrew men, to create a superhero that embodied so many of the idealistic things that I think as Americans, as humans, certainly, that we long and strive for. And, you know, throughout the years, Superman's kind of been like passe, he's kind of like quirky, you know, kind of been made a joke. But after rewatching those first two Superman movies recently, and then once again going to see James Gunn's iteration, it really has struck in me such a nerve of just how powerful, at least the iconography of the red, the blue, the yellow, the striking posture of him with an American flag and just identifying with these morals as a country and as people we really used to hold dear. And I feel like really this movie does attempt in a postmodern, in a new way, to kind of cling to that and address that. But going back to the creation, this is very common. This isn't my speculation, but once again, drawing on their Hebraic upbringing, they were inspired by several different biblical figures. Probably the most commonly or the most easily accessible would be that of Samson with his strength, and even that of Moses. But one of the interesting things, I feel like there really is such a metaphor for the story of Christ. And that being that the father, Jor-El, Superman's biological father from Krypton, sent his son to the earth to save it. And that certainly is such a powerful, recognizable identity that at the heart of the Superman tale, no matter what iteration, no matter how they try to change it, and this movie does attempt to change it a little bit. I'm not going to give spoilers. I'm going to try not to give spoilers. I'll alert you if I do. But there's just a metaphor and iconography that cannot be shaken. And it's even interesting because when you look at the names, Jor-El, which in Hebrew means God will uplift, or even Kal-El, what is Superman's Kryptonian name, it means voice of God or child of God. And I think it's just such a powerful iconography. Once again, these young Cleveland Jewish boys taking what was around them, being inspired, and creating now, almost 100 years ago, a person, a image in pop culture that has really stood the test of time. And getting into my thoughts on the movie, overall, I really enjoyed it. And I really thought there was a lot of interesting approaches. Now, there were some things I didn't really care for, and I'm going to try to explain those without spoiling as much as I can. But this was directed by James Gunn, who most famously is known for directing the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, which are just fun, entertaining, popcorn, comic book action comedy movies. And if you've seen that, you've also seen he directed the Suicide Squad sequel, which has those trademark James Gunn tropes, sort of the music, the comedy, the action, the just immersive nature of the comic books. And you can tell that James Gunn is a guy who grew up reading comics, and it's just, he adores them so much. And this movie is so rich in the history and the lore of comics. And I want to just say right off the bat that I think the casting of David Cornsweet as Superman was bang on. I just look at this guy and I think, wow, this dude has the approach, has the demeanor, and really the gravitas to pull off an invincible person, an invincible entity, but also who has the heart of innocence and who really is standing up for the purest in humanity. And another great casting choice I thought was Michael Holt as Lex Luthor. And I just love how, like, you really didn't like this guy. Like he was the first Lex that was portrayed. I thought, like, you really genuinely did not like this guy. Yet Gene Hackman was kind of goofy as Lex Luthor. Michael Rosenbaum in the Smallville series, which I absolutely adore, and there were so many nods to Smallville in this movie. But Michael Rosenbaum's portrayal of Lex Luthor as just kind of a brooding young man trying to find his way, get out from underneath the shadow of his father. All this was stripped away, and he was just standing on his own as the villain that he is completely capable of. And it just, you like really didn't like this guy. And I really just appreciated the back and forth between the two. Like, as wonderful a casting, as wonderful as portrayal as David Cornsweet as just this altruistic image of good as his portrayal of Superman, Michael Holt's portrayal of Lex Luthor was exactly diametrically opposed, exactly on the opposite end of that. And I thought that played so well. One addition that I absolutely loved was the addition of Crypto in this movie. And James Gunn has been really criticized for adding comedy at like the wrong times or just overdoing it. But I think that Crypto really added a layer that we've not seen in Superman portrayals. If you've read the comics, you certainly have seen that, but just him being, as he refers to, fostering Crypto, it was just such a great addition. And Henry Cavill, he had the look of Superman. He had the appearance minus the red shorts, but what he lacked to me was the connection that I just so appeals and endears me to Superman, which is that altruistic, that not only is he the Man of Steel, not only is he just almost impervious to any kind of pain physically, but it's his emotionality. It's his wanting and needing to do good and to do right that I don't believe Cavill's portrayal consisted of. I watched all the films that he was in, and once again, as he looked the role, and there were moments where certainly it was like cool to watch him in the action scenes. That genuine heart of I am here to be a source of good in this planet, and I'm here to save the world, was completely void and absent from Cavill's performance. But David Cornsweet has it in spades. Not to the level of Christopher Reeve, but he had it in the right places in the right time. One of the things that I didn't really care for regarding the casting was Lois Lane, Rachel Brosnan, and she looked the role. It wasn't anything like that. It was just her. She was completely apathetic. She was, I love Superman. I don't love him. I don't want to be with him. There was just really, I want to be a hero, but I also don't want to, support Superman as the hero. And to me, it was just very lackluster. It was just very I think you could have found a number of different actresses to portray her, and it would have been just as enjoyable. But at the heart of everything for me, as knowing that Superman was created in Cleveland and being a lifelong Clevelander, the production of Superman 2025 is just layer upon layer of homage to Cleveland. You can't see a scene of Metropolis, and if you have any familiarity with Cleveland, downtown Cleveland, near the West Side Market, like Lakewood, around East 9th, up and down the Euclid Avenue corridor, the arcade, Terminal Tower. There's just so richly embellished the lore of Metropolis in the physical stand-in of Cleveland as Metropolis. And certainly the Mentor Headlands Beach, which I knew they were filming, I had no idea how much was filmed there. And it was just remarkable to see the transformation, and that Cleveland was really utilized in a wonderful way. And I know that the first Avengers film was shot in Cleveland. The Captain America Winter Soldier was shot in Cleveland. And there's a lot of nods there. But you are just submersed in Cleveland, in the culture, in the architecture, and if my wife and I kept kind of nudging each other like, hey, that's the arcade, or hey, that's Public Square, or and it was just such a thrill to see, and if nothing else, just to see that transformation. But at the end of the day, there were some things that I just didn't really care for. It seemed like Superman, who is the Man of Steel, who is just completely almost immune to anything but kryptonite, was just getting the crap kicked out of him. And as I am commenting on this as something to take note of, I certainly see in the last handful of years that in action movies and comic book movies, science fiction movies, things in this genre, we've certainly seen that the hero's journey has been missing. The first instance that comes to my mind is Rey from the latest Star Wars trilogy. It's like you meet her and automatically she knows how to use the Force. She knows how to use a lightsaber. She's coming against Kylo Ren, who is stepped into his grandfather Darth Vader's steps as the Darth Sith Lord, and standing against him toe to toe. And where it lacks for me, where I disconnect from that, is when there is no journey, when there is no hero saga, where You can look at someone like Rocky, who gets the snot pummeled out of him, but he beats everybody with heart. I certainly see that there's just this propensity in this movie to literally kick the crap out of Superman a number of times. But I also see that, in my estimation, I just feel like it adds and it just contributes to Superman's journey as becoming a more adept fighter and becoming more aware of the sinister ploys and that not everybody has his best interest at heart. And even a conversation between he and Lois Lane about her being like punk rock and questioning authority and kind of being what a true journalist, as her and Clark Kent work at the Daily Planet, which is amazing that in this day and age, a newspaper is still afloat. But being someone who is questions authority and challenges everything, and being kind of that Woodward and Bernstein-esque old school gumshoe journalist, and Clark, on the other hand, who, he's like, well, I like punk rock and this and that. And she's like, those bands aren't punk rock. And just his good-hearted nature, his sincerity, the attributes that really attract and draw me to Superman are what comes out in him. And she's like, that's not punk rock. And his argument is, well, maybe being kind and maybe being loving and altruistic really is the new punk rock. And I thought that was a really profound statement. So my takeaway is I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I'm hoping that this is successful because I'm looking forward to seeing what else comes from the DCU. I know the Supergirl movie is next up, and I don't think this is a spoiler. There is a cameo from Supergirl, which maybe sets up the next one. But overall, I thought it was really good, and I thought it was a great way to start this new era in DC Comics, and hopefully it will reach what it needs to reach, and hopefully it will do what it needs to do to continue this story, because I'm very interested to see what happens next with David Cornsweet as Superman. But all in all, I want to keep in mind, and this is something that was at the forefront of my mind as I was watching this movie, two young Jewish men in Cleveland took their understanding of the scriptures and put them into metaphor to create a character that no matter what, no matter the circumstances, is always going to fight for right, always going to do what he should do, not because it's the easy thing, but because it's the right thing to do. And that really came through to me. And I recommend this movie. I think if you're just a casual movie fan, nothing else, it's a good popcorn movie. My wife enjoyed it. She's not really into these kind of films. I know she really enjoyed Smallville, which, as I mentioned earlier, there were a lot of nods to. As an example, in the comics, Lex Luthor's business was called LexCorp, and they changed that in Smallville to call it LuthorCorp, which makes more sense because people would name a business after their last name, not their first. So they called it LuthorCorp in this movie. And there were just other nods and homages that I thought were really kind of clever if you pay attention to those things. But really just a great movie. Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to seeing what's next. And I hope that you guys, if you've seen it, let me know in the comments below what you thought. If I'm just viewing this with rose-colored lenses, or if there's something that I missed. I'm not saying it was a perfect movie. I'm not saying that they got a home run every time, but I think their at-bat average in this was better than most certainly Superman adaptations, but most comic book movies that I've seen recently, outside of the Daredevil Born Again series. But I'm a little biased because I'm a big Daredevil fan. But nonetheless, let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm really interested to see who else, A, have seen it, and then B, what were their impressions, what their thoughts were. I was really concerned going into this because just different comments that the director James Gunn made about immigration and about this being woke or this being a political movie. Listen, I can smell that stuff like a fart in a car. I didn't pick up any of that. There was a scene where Lex Luthor trained a bunch of monkeys to be trolls and and troll people on Twitter. But outside of that, it was just funny. It wasn't like, it wasn't purposeful to make any political statements. So I don't think there's any kind of brainwashing or trying to induct you into anything, but just enjoy the movie. Remember that this is a character that was created largely as a homage to heroes of the Bible, and the allegory of the father sending his son to the earth to save it can't go unnoticed. So I really enjoyed it. Once again, I'm interested to hear what you guys think. Please leave your comments below. Send us a message. You can find us anywhere podcasts star. Just search Flawedcast CLE, Apple, Spotify, Breaker, Anchor.fm. You can find us on the video platform Rumble. That's also under Flawed Inc. You can find us. We're also on the Project Mockingbird social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Getter, Gab, Parler. We are now also on Threads. That's all under Flawed Inc. In the description in this episode, there is a link to get a copy of my book, Smith's Heart of Man Repair Manual, and our email is flawedinccle@gmail.com. Any questions, comments, or concerns, send them there. But we will see you guys next week. Up, and away.